It was late, and I was lying on my couch scrolling through Twitter with my phone inches from my face. The room lights were on, the TV was running in the background, and I was half paying attention to anything on the screen. My feed was the usual garbage. Then a thread appeared that didn't look like the rest. The account had almost no followers. The profile picture was just a black circle. The first tweet said the thread explained how to open a demonic portal using a simple ritual anyone could perform at home. It sounded ridiculous, but it also looked detailed enough that I stopped scrolling. I tapped the thread and started reading. Each post explained a step. It talked about a glass of water, a candle, a drop of blood, and a phrase that had to be repeated several times. The thread also warned that if the ritual started, it had to be finished correctly. According to the posts, something would appear in the room if it worked. I didn't believe it for a second, but I kept reading for almost an hour anyway. The instructions were simple enough that anyone could follow them. The ritual needed a quiet room, one candle, a glass of water, and a piece of paper with a symbol drawn on it. The person performing it had to sit facing a door while repeating a phrase written in the thread. The posts insisted that the door should stay closed until the ritual ended. One tweet explained something important. If the ritual was interrupted halfway, the person had to cancel it by throwing the glass of water against the door. According to the thread, that action would shut the portal before anything crossed through it. I stared at my phone for a long moment before standing up. My apartment was small and quiet. The kitchen was a few steps away, and I grabbed a glass without thinking too much about it. Then I found a candle in a drawer and brought both things to the table in my living room. The phone stayed on the table while the thread remained open on the screen. I followed the instructions just to see what would happen. Before doing anything else, I checked the steps again. The thread warned that once the phrase started, it should not stop until the ritual finished. The candle had to stay lit. The glass of water had to remain in front of the person performing it. The door had to stay closed. I placed the glass on the table and lit the candle. The flame moved gently, but stayed steady. I took a pen from the table and pressed the tip into my fingertip, just hard enough to break the skin. A drop of blood formed, and I let it fall into the glass of water. The red color spread slowly through the liquid. Then I sat down facing the door. Before I began speaking, something in the room made me hesitate. The TV suddenly lost signal and the screen turned black. The apartment became quiet in a way that felt strange because the television had been running all night. The only light left in the room came from the candle on the table. I looked at the phone again and began repeating the phrase written in the thread. The words sounded strange, but simple enough to say. After the third repetition, the lights in the apartment shut off at the same time. The candle flame jumped suddenly and leaned sideways as if someone had blown air toward it. In the kitchen, a cabinet door slammed open so hard it bounced off the wall. A plate fell from inside the cabinet and shattered on the floor. I stopped speaking for a second and stared toward the kitchen. The thread on my phone showed the next message. It said that if objects started moving, the ritual had already begun working. I looked around the room carefully before continuing. The hallway door leading to my bedroom was closed. The front door of the apartment was still shut exactly the way it had been earlier. Nothing was moving now, but the broken plate in the kitchen was clearly visible on the floor. I read the next tweet in the thread. It warned that something would appear behind the person performing the ritual. The instructions said not to look at it directly until the ritual finished. According to the post, looking too soon could provoke it. My eyes stayed locked on the door in front of me. Before anything else happened, the room became completely silent again. Even the faint sound of traffic outside had disappeared. The candle flame flickered hard and bent sideways, then the front door unlocked by itself. The handle turned slowly and the door swung open with a long creaking sound. Cold air moved through the apartment and pushed the candle flame almost flat. At the same time, something heavy slid across the kitchen counter. Another plate lifted from the counter and flew across the room. It smashed against the wall near my shoulder, and pieces of ceramic scattered across the floor. I forced myself to keep repeating the phrase. The thread said stopping too early would be dangerous. Behind my chair, something touched the floor with a soft step. I kept my eyes on the door while the steps behind me continued. Each step sounded slow and heavy. Whatever was behind me dragged its feet slightly across the floor before taking the next step forward. The sound got closer until it was directly behind my chair. The candle flame began shaking violently. I could see a shadow stretching across the table, but the shape didn't match anything in the room. It looked tall and uneven, with long arms hanging too close to the ground. Before turning around, I looked at the phone again. The thread said the ritual ended when the phrase was spoken for the final time. It also repeated the warning about the glass. If something tried to attack before the ritual finished, the person had to break the glass against the door. Something cold touched the back of my neck. I turned around quickly. The figure standing behind me was tall enough that its head nearly touched the ceiling. Its body looked like thick black smoke held together in the shape of a person. The arms were long and thin, and the fingers were stretched like wires. The face had no eyes or mouth. It leaned closer to me slowly. One of its arms lifted and reached toward my shoulder. I grabbed the glass of water with both hands. The figure moved faster the moment I touched the glass. Its arm shot forward and grabbed the back of my shirt, pulling me hard against the table. The candle fell over and rolled across the surface, while the flame kept burning sideways. I tried to pull away, but the grip on my shirt tightened. The figure dragged me halfway across the table and knocked the phone onto the floor. The screen cracked, but the Twitter thread was still visible for a second before the phone slid under the chair. Its other hand reached toward my throat. I swung the glass as hard as I could and threw it at the door. The glass smashed against the wood with a loud crack. Water and blood splashed across the surface and ran down the door in dark streaks. At the exact moment the glass broke, every light in the apartment turned back on. The figure disappeared instantly. I stood there breathing hard while staring at the door. The glass fragments were scattered across the floor. Water dripped down the wood and pooled near the base of the door. For a moment everything looked normal again. Then I noticed the stain. A large, black mark had spread across the door where the water hit it. The shape looked like smoke burned into the wood. I wiped it with my sleeve, but the stain didn't move at all. It stayed exactly the same. The apartment was quiet again, but the kitchen was a mess. Broken plates covered the floor and one cabinet door hung open. The candle had rolled off the table and left wax smeared across the wood. I picked up my phone and opened Twitter. The thread was gone. The page showed an error message, and the account that posted it no longer existed. I searched for the username, the ritual, and the exact words from the tweets. Nothing appeared. It was like the entire thread had been erased. That happened 8 months ago. The black stain on my door is still there. I tried scrubbing it, sanding the wood, even painting over it. Every time the paint dries, the same black shape shows through again. It never fades. I also noticed something else. Late at night, when the apartment is quiet, the door handle moves slightly on its own. It doesn't open completely, but it turns slowly as if something on the other side is testing it. And sometimes I hear a dragging step behind me while I sit at the table.